Hey y'all, it's Bailey with Reclaim Grace. I'm so happy you clicked on this video. Do y'all know what today is? May 22nd, but also the IOD Summer release date. It's my favorite time of the year whenever we get a new release by IOD. I have 4 projects completed for y'all using the new release items, and also my website is live. It's going to be linked down in the description. Y'all let me know which project is your favorite, and we're going to get started right now. I hope y'all are excited as I am to start crafting with these new IOD products. Here's our first project, a little baby doll's dresser, I would say. It's about to get a really cool update. I'm going to start off by giving it a good clean, just using some Windex, wiping down every surface. Next, we're going to remove our hardware on our dresser. I'm going to leave the hinges, just take off the pulls. I love this screwdriver kit I picked up from Harbor Freight. It is so nifty when working with tiny screws. Since I am famous for losing these tiny screws, I'm going to stick them in a small cup and set that to the side so I do not lose them. We are going to be creating lots and lots of layers. So my first layer, I'm going to use up some old paint. This is DIY Cottage Color in the color Provincial. I have a lot of salt wash in my cup, and I'm going to mix that up until I get a pretty thick consistency. As you can see on the side of our mini dresser, it already has a textured finish on it. So I'm going to work with that, and I'm going to start applying this thick paint mixture in a pouncing motion, creating lots of texture just by pouncing the paint up and down. And I'm going to apply the first coat on the entire dresser this way. Then I'm going to actually sprinkle some dry, what is this called? Salt wash onto the wet paint and dab that in very lightly just to create a little bit more texture. I painted the piece with the drawer inside of it and the doors closed, but once I got the paint applied, I made sure I opened the doors and removed the drawer so the paint did not glue it shut pretty much. I did go around the hinges at first, but I ended up painting over those a little later. So our next layer is Oakum. This is just a darker gray color I'm mixing with salt wash. And on this layer, I'm not worried about hitting every inch, every surface. I'm just going to add a little bit here and there all over the entire piece. Now that those 2 layers are good and dry, we're going to come in with a chalk paint. This is cotton. It's just a bright white chalk paint. And I'm going to apply 2 good coats all over the mini dresser on the outside. And I'm letting my paintbrush skip some areas when it wants to go over the most textured surfaces. And we're just going to get this baby painted up. When you're creating old world finishes, it's super fun technique to do because there's really no method to it. You can be as messy as you want, as carefree as you want, and it's going to come out looking good and old and vintage looking. So now that our 2 coats of paint are dry, I'm going to take this scraper tool thingy and start scraping back the texture. Now this is going to leave marks in the paint, but like I said, carefree, no big deal. It's going to come out amazing in the end. I'm going to scrape those chunks of salt wash away, and you're going to see that lighter gray color and that darker gray color coming through the white paint, and it is so cool and chippy looking. So, I have great news. My website is live right now. You can find it in the description box below. Y'all go over, check it out. Let me know what you think. Browse around some. I'm up for suggestions and feedback. This was a lot of hard work, and I'm super excited to be on this website and online journey. So now, once we're done scraping, I'm going to come in with some sandpaper and just distress the edges and just make sure everything is somewhat smooth. So here is the star of the show. This is the new Folk Story IOD stamp. It's gorgeous, got birds. It's absolutely gorgeous. We're going to be stamping this on the doors and the drawer. So I'm going to use my permanent IOD black ink, and I'm just going to ink up the section where my doors will be. Once I get it good and juicy, because we do have lots of texture going on, I'm going to flip it over, position it, fully commit, and I'm going to hold with one hand and rub with the other. I'm going to especially rub a little bit harder around those hinges so I get a good impression. I'll lift up, take a sneak peek. I even get out my brayer and put a little bit more pressure because I wanted that bird to stand out. And then we're going to lift straight up. Now, of course, this isn't going to be a perfect impression because we created all that texture, but it still looks great. So now I'm going to ink up another little part of the stamp and stamp up this drawer. Next, let's make the inside pretty. I'm just going to put a couple coats of oakum on the inside, and then we're going to be doing something pretty fun to the outside, or excuse me, the inside of the door panels. I'm actually going to be using that same Folk Story stamp, but this time with my white IOD permanent ink. And I'm going to stamp that on the inside of both door panels. Since we use chalk paint on the outside of our mini dresser, we need to get that sealed up. I'm going to use Dixie Belle in the flat clear coat. I wanted to add just a little bit more age with Fusion's Aging Wax. I'm going to buff this wax onto the entire outside surface. I'm going to work a panel at a time, applying it with a wax brush and then buffing it off with a blue shop towel. Since we applied the clear coat, we'll really be able to wipe back as much as we want. Here's a quick view of what it looks like being waxed versus not waxed. And I added my hardware, and this baby is done. Y'all, this thing turned out gorgeous. I love its character. I love that Folk Story stamp. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this project. I'm going to sell it for maybe $49.95. Our next project is this rolling pin. I actually painted the handles a few weeks ago when I had some leftover milk paint, and as you can see, the rolling pin section is stained. So I'm going to add just one coat of cotton and let that fully dry. We're going to be using Folk Story again. Well, actually, this was my first project with the Folk Story stamp, so I needed to season it, and if you've never seasoned a stamp before, you only do this one time. You just sand it in both directions very lightly with maybe some 220 grit sandpaper. Now your ink will stick to your stamp much better. I'm going to apply some black IOD permanent ink to the entire stamp, and I'm just going to roll this rolling pin along the stamp. I just kind of eyeballed it, like where to stop, and it stopped in the perfect spot. I got very lucky there. I've seen several people do this, and I love how it came out. I'm just going to seal up that chalk paint with some Fusion Agent Wax, buff that in, and this project is very simple, and I love how it came out. It was the perfect candidate since it had those stains on the rolling pin. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this quick project. I'm going to sell it for $14. Project number 3 are these wooden canisters I picked up from Salvation Army for $2.99 for all 3. 2 of them had the wooden lids, which I loved. I wish the third one would have had it, but I love how these are nesting containers. Once I figure it out, they all fit into the largest container, which is very cool. So we're going to start off by giving these a good clean top to bottom, and as I was cleaning them, this snagged on the bottom of the canister. This veneer was coming off, so I removed that bottom veneer on all 3 canisters. Now that lettering on the front of the canister was a little raised, so we need to sand that down so we no longer fill it, and I went ahead and scuff sand the rest of the canisters as well. Now we need to seal up that raw wood. I did 2 coats of shellac just to save me some stress in case these wanted to bleed through my white paint. I'm going to be using Cotton again by Dixie Belle. This is a chalk paint. I applied 2 coats to all 3 canisters. I didn't paint the inside. The insides were in really good shape, so they were perfectly fine being the natural wood. I did go ahead and paint the bottoms and around this top lip right here. Here is how they were looking after 2 coats of that chalk paint. We are looking good. I'm going to be distressing these, so full coverage wasn't necessary. I wanted to bring back that gorgeous wood, especially along those finger joints on the sides. I love finger joints, so I wanted to sand that chalk paint back until you could see those edges. I dusted off the sanding dust, and we're going to be using paint and lace on this. Now, I'm probably going to butcher this name, but this is Fluorography. Gorgeous black paint inlay. I love how it's just nothing but black. So I am misting the paint side of my paint inlay. We're going to be using the Dixie Belle Flat Clear Coat as our medium. I'm going to apply that in an even manner over the entire surface and then place my damp paint inlay into that wet medium. Going to rub all over and then mist the top of the paint inlay. Then I like to grab a blue shop towel and get off any excess water, and then I will set that one to the side and just rinse and repeat. I have heard from so many people that they're scared of using a paint inlay. Y'all, I promise you, once you get the hang of it and get your method down, they are super easy. And, they take a little bit longer than a transfer would, but not much longer. I can have this whole process done in less than 5 minutes because I like to use my heat gun to dry my paint inlays, and they're dry within 30 seconds. So once I get these applied, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over them with my heat gun, making sure I keep that heat gun moving until they're dry. You can tell the paint inlay is dry when it becomes back cloudy. So now I'm going to remist the top of all 3 canisters, give it a few seconds, get any excess water off, and then we're going to start peeling them back one at a time. I'm leaving this in real time for you. It's a pretty slow peel back, but I absolutely love it. Love how this came out. I love the distress, the natural distress that happens when you use a paint inlay. I'm going to set these inlays to the side, paint side up, and let them naturally dry. So I wanted to add a little bit more character to these, so I grabbed my vintage texture stamp with my black ink. I'm going to offload that ink a little bit on my work surface and then just tickle the back of the stamp on all four sides of all three canisters. This will just add a little bit more age to them. Our next step is to seal up these paint inlays. I'm really loading up my brush when I go over top of the paint inlay section so I don't risk smearing it, and I'm going to use very, very light pressure. If you're worried about smearing your paint inlay, just give it a quick coat of a spray sealer instead. Once that clear coat was dry, I'm going to age these up with some Fusion Agent Wax. I'll go ahead and put the age on the entire canister since we do have that clear coat down, and then I will wipe all the excess wax off, and then I'm going to come in with, I'm going to show you the difference between the waxed and non-waxed. Once I get that wax buffed in, while it's still wet, I'm going to use some Dixie Belle dust or Dixie Belle dirt. I love the patina that this adds to a piece. I'm just going to hit on the edges and corners and just some random places to add some extra age. Here is a tip for you. I like to mark the back side of my dried paint inlays with just a second mark. So I know the next time I go into this folder of paint inlays that this will be the second use. There's nothing worse than grabbing a paint inlay thinking it's going to be the first use and it's actually the second use. Either way, now these projects are done. I love how they came out. They aged perfectly. I'm going to price these for $39.95. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this project. Our last project in today's video is this very large frame I thrifted for $5. I'm going to work on getting this back detached, just unscrewing the screws and prying out the staples. Once I get all those removed, I'm going to set this to the side. I have grabbed a piece of 1/4-inch scrap plywood I have extra in my shop, and we're going to create a center panel for our frame. I just have a lead pencil here, and I'm just really trying to go underneath the edge of the frame just a little bit. Then I'm going to take my jigsaw and quickly cut that out. This does not have to be perfect. That back panel is going to hide the ragged cuts. Once I get that cut out and fit properly, I'm going to come in with some staples and staple that onto the back of the frame. We are going to be creating layers with this look as well. So I have some chocolate fusion paint and some salt wash mixed up to a pretty thick consistency, and I'm going to put this on the entire front, center panel, and the frame. I went ahead and attached the center panel to the frame because of how I want to lay out my transfers. I need to make sure that they're laid out appropriately, but this is not going to hold us up. This coat does not have to be perfect. Here is how it was looking after I got that first layer applied. The frame had more coverage than the center panel, and that is a-okay. So now we're going to paint that center panel with another layer. This is Raw Silk by Fusion, and I have it a little bit watered down because look at that rim to that paint canister. The air gets in it, so it thickens up. I just add a little bit of water and stir it up well, and it's great for the next use. I'm going to cut in around the frame, and I'm going to do 2 coats on that center panel. If I get some on the frame, it's not a big deal because we're about to come in and paint the frame with another layer as well. Now we're jumping back to just the frame. I have some paint couture in the bronze metallic paint. This is a gorgeous bronze color. I absolutely love it. I'm going to do a heavy dry brush on just the frame part, trying to stay away from the white paint and letting the paintbrush skip over that chocolate texture so it makes the frame look aged. Y'all, we are going to be using the new IOD Summer Release Transfer Menagerie. It is gorgeous. It's probably my favorite, but I got a little carried away and applied a branch without distressing first. So I just removed those, set them to the side, and I'm coming in with some 320 grit sandpaper and sanding down the white paint, bringing back that chocolate texture. I'm going to make sure I dust this off and wipe it off very well before I start applying my transfers. Now I've got all my transfers back positioned where I like them. It took some playing around to figure out the placement, and we're going to start transferring. All of your transfers come with this burnishing tool that I'm using right now. You just rub all over the transfer, and then I like to pick up that carrier sheet as I'm rubbing and like lift and rub at the same time. It makes it release a lot easier. Once I get each transfer down, I'm going to rub them well with my hands instead of that carrier sheet to burnish them, to make sure there's no air pockets and that everything has made good contact. Since we have lots of texture, I'm deciding to use my hand because if you use that piece of plastic, sometimes it will rip your transfer up, and I was not having that. Y'all look at that bird cage. I kind of messed up here. I wanted a bird inside of my bird cage, so I should have put the bird down first. But again, I got a little carried away, so I decided to put the bird somewhere else, and I love it all the same. Like I said, this one is definitely my favorite from this release. Y'all let me know what is your favorite from the new IOD Summer release. I wanted to add a little something else in the blank spaces, so I grabbed vintage texture stamp, and I'm just going to tickle a little bit of black permanent ink on the back of the stamp and place it just randomly here and there. Since we used an all-in-one paint, it doesn't need to be sealed, but our transfers do. So I'm going to use Fusion Agent Wax first. I'm just coming in straight on the paint, straight on the transfers with the Agent Wax. I don't need to wax the entire surface, just get the majority of it. And then I'm going to grab a blue shop towel with some clear wax on the towel and buff in the wax. Now this took some serious buffing because I did not want this piece to be dark. So your clear wax will act as an eraser, especially over top and all in one paint. So just keep on working until you like the way it looks. Our last step is just to add that back panel. I'm going to get that placed right and then shoot a few staples in the back to hold it down, and then I will add a hanging hardware and add some bronze paint to the back of the frame that's showing, and then this project is done. I think this one's my favorite, y'all. This project is my favorite from this video. Y'all let me know which project is your favorite. And let me know what y'all think about this one. I think I'm going to price it for around $80. Y'all be sure to go check out my website. It's linked in the description box below. It's reclaimgrace.squarespace.com. I appreciate y'all spending y'all's time with me today. And if you got any inspiration from today's video, hit that like button. Let me know which project is your favorite down in the comments. And consider subscribing if you have not already. We are less than 200 people away from reaching that 10,000 subscriber mark. I know we will be there before too long, and I plan on doing a giveaway. Thank y'all for spending your time with me today. I really hope y'all enjoyed these products and these projects. I will talk to y'all in the comments. Bye.